What is going on, everybody? We are back after a couple week hiatus. It is one of your co-hosts, Zachner here, always with my amazing co-host, Chris Spooner. How you doing, Chris Spoon?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How you doing, Zach?
I could be better. Um, and like I normally say I won't talk about it, but like I will dish a little bit because it's been a bit rough. But so my left ear isn't necessarily working correctly right now. It's been pretty jammed up for the past like 2-3 weeks. So I'm working on scheduling an ENT appointment for that. Because it's really weird. And then work has been insanity. But we've had some awesome music
Yes, we
to
have.
help me grind through these past couple weeks. Some fantastic releases. And when I say fantastic releases, this album that I'm going to mention right here is not one, it's not album of the year worthy. It is not at all, but it is something that really warmed my heart because it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. And that was
Mhm.
Ice Nine Kills' new release, The Silver Scream 2, Welcome to Horrorwood. Um, Obviously, getting the first track out of the way because it's just really a 42-second intro. The first track is the first song they've done in quite some time that is not related to some form or like thing in general of literature. It's just their own writing because there's no cinematic basis
Mhm.
according to Wikipedia, that is anyways. And right from the get-go I was hooked immediately, that first song.
Yep.
And even listening back through it, I'm very confused as to why they released the singles that they did release. Because when you listen to because honestly, when I ran through this album, I found the singles much more appealing than when they were released as the individual material.
Exactly. I felt the same way. Like we mentioned the last time we got together, I wasn't I wasn't really looking forward to this album. It was one that I was going to listen to because I've been a Nice Nine Kills fan, and because that's what we do here is listen to as much of the new music as we can. Um, so I was going to listen to it, but I wasn't anticipating it. I wasn't going in, expecting to like it. Um, and I really did. And like you said, the singles didn't do anything for me when they were released, but listening to them in the context of the album, I really did enjoy all of the singles that they released. So that was really surprising to me because I didn't expect to enjoy those songs in particular.
Yeah, and I don't know if they were necessarily trying to play off of the like with the timing of the releases and what the movies were that were related to them. Because what the first one was, Hip to Be Scared. That's American Psycho, and that was released
Mhm.
in July. And then the Assault and Batteries was the second. That was in August, and that was Psycho, or not Psycho, Child's Play. Then Rainy Day was the third. That was September, and that was Resident Evil. And then Funeral Derangements was the one in October, and that was Pet Cemetery. Now, also, I want everybody to know right now that I do not watch horror movies in the slightest at all. I have not seen any of these movies. Not a
Really?
single one on this list.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's just not for me. Um, I really enjoy the songs because there's no
Mhm.
my problem's the visual aspect. I get scared way too easily. Like I get jump scared at work like 5 times a shift. And
Yeah.
like it's not even like they're trying to scare me. They just come around the corner and I just don't expect it. And I turn, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, like and it makes everybody cry and laugh, and I have fun with it at this point because I know
Mhm.
like my family tries to do it on purpose. Like my family will purposely try to scare me. um but yeah, I'm not just gonna sit there. Now there's like a very certain horror genres that I can get down with. I'm trying to remember what my friend was calling it the other day because I forget what the actual term is, but like the Paranormal Activity,
Hmm.
the like the camcorder stuff,
Okay.
um, the Blair Witch Project stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I can enjoy those because I can kind of get around the idea that I'm like, all right, this is kind of like this is a bit much
Hmm.
with the way that it can be manipulated, stuff like that. But um, not necessarily the Blair Witch Project because that's great. That was fantastic. And there's a lot of horror movies that I've been forced to watch by friends. So there's also that. But yeah, nothing on this list, which is very surprising. Um, but it poses a very interesting challenge because this is a concept album,
Hmm.
same as they've been doing for three. And you would figure with the past two albums, they would figure out how to release singles and like generate a lot of hype. And I think they generated the hype. I don't think they were trying to generate the hype for the fans they already had. I think they were trying to make new fans, and they were like, all right,
Yeah.
well, we know the fans that we already have in the barrel. They're gonna come and they're gonna give this a full listen and they're gonna be impressed. Let's get everybody else.
Right. Right. And I mean that makes sense. You know that your loyal fans are going to be your loyal fans by and large, no matter what you do. I mean, like, there's always going to be some that drop off if you change your sound dramatically, but for the most part, if you've developed a loyal fan base, they're going to be loyal. So I get that approach. And like I said, once I listened to the album and heard those songs in the context of the album, I really did enjoy them. I just didn't enjoy them on their own. I didn't feel like they stood on their own, but in the album they really worked.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because we gave it so much. We gave it so much like we were eviscerating it. Like we were not
A
happy.
little
We were
bit,
not happy
yeah.
in the slightest. And it's so funny because beforehand I was like, oh, I don't like all the soft songs and there's too many. And then I go and listen through it, and Fly is my favorite song on the album by far. Um, there's some other ones on there. The I mean the final like from 9 to 14. So
Hmm.
take your pick with featuring Corpse Grinder, The Box featuring Brandon Stoller and Ryden Kirby, Fly featuring Buddy Nelson, Worst Vacation, Ex Mortis, and Farewell to Flesh. Like just like that whole rundown
Yeah,
right there is just insane. And then on top of that, you have well now see, man, it's so weird. They released, so I'm just now realizing that with the exception of Salt and Batteries, because so the singles are in reverse order,
hmm,
which I think is a very, like we said, a very different vibe than we've originally heard them. And then you have A Rash Decision coming in, and the shower scene and all those breaking up what we've already heard. They pieced it together perfectly. But again, and things that we'll talk about in the next episode, because this is topic for the next episode. If other stuff hadn't been released this year, maybe they would have an argument, but there's just so many other
yeah.
albums and so many other pieces of work that have come out this year that I'm just like, oh my god. Like now you can't there's it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be really difficult. Like I can see this being in my like top 20, top 15, but I don't know if it cracks my top 10, top five,
It
because
definitely,
there's just
yeah,
so much.
yeah. It's definitely not
Once
going to crack my top five, for
yeah,
sure, and probably not my top 10. Might be in my top 15. But there's a whole lot from the first half of this year that I haven't gotten to yet that I really need to go back and find the time to listen to. Um, but just these last couple of months, there's just been killer album after killer album released. So it's, yeah, like you said, it's not going to be in the album of the year category for me, but it was a really solid effort. Surprising. I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed this one.
yes, and I do apologize for that right there. I just realized that my computer was about to die, and we were not about to have a replay of a couple episodes ago. Um, But yeah, no, it very solid effort. Again, my big my big my big criticism was that I felt like Spencer Charnas was way too upfront, and there was too much clean Spencer, and they really took that a different direction
Yeah.
with the full release, and I'm happy about that. Um,
Yeah, me too. I
and
was worried about it. I was worried that it was going to be a mostly cleans album and that I wasn't going to be as into it as I have been other Ice Nine Kills releases. But yeah, the rest of the album was not like that, and I'm appreciative of that.
yeah, and I do that right here. It has that there's two um there's two deluxe bonus tracks on the Bloodshed edition.
Mm.
And they're orchestral versions of Assault and Batteries and Ex Mortis, and I kind of want to hear those
So do I. I
because I have
didn't
not.
know those were a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Ex
interesting.
Mortis. Ex Mortis was probably my favorite track on the album, so I'm definitely gonna have to check that out when we're done recording here.
Yeah, definitely. Now I there were not a lot of other albums that I can remember from that weekend. Granted, it's been a long time, and a lot has happened in the
Yeah,
time between. Was there any? What were some of the stuff that you were really bumping to that week?
you know, for as far as full length releases, really the Ice Nine Kills album was the only one that I listened to that I really got down with. Really thought was stellar. But there were two EPs released the week of the 15th that I really enjoyed. Um, and one of them I didn't think I was going to enjoy. It was the Knocked Loose EP.
Mm,
They kind of surprised everyone and just dropped an EP kind of out of the blue. Um, and they're a hardcore punk uh, type of band, and they've got a huge fan base, and they're a band that is talked about a lot in circles, even in metal circles. Um, and I've listened to some of their stuff, and I never like it wasn't for me. Um, I just never really enjoyed any of it. But I figured it's a release, so I might
oh
as
yeah,
well give it a shot. And it's an EP, so even if I don't like it, it's 6 songs at the max, 20 minutes. Uh,
hardcore punk from Oldham County, Kentucky.
yep,
I love it.
it was great. I was really impressed with it. It was very very well done. Very very
Oh,
good.
they're a Pure Noise act too.
Yep.
Ooh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to give them a listen.
Yeah,
Um,
you should. It's a fantastic EP. I wasn't anticipating liking it, but it was really good. It was one of the better things that I have heard this year, even. And that's saying a lot with what has come out this year.
their release in 2019 was pretty well received. A different shade of blue.
Hmm.
Alternative Press had it as the 18th out of 50 for the best albums in 2019. Loudwire had it at 31 for the best albums of the decade from 2010 to 2019. Um, I don't
Yeah,
even
it
know
was.
why it mentions Loudwire for the best 50 metal albums because it says unranked. So I don't know why they would just put it in there. Um, Revolver had it at 4 for the best albums of 2019. What Culture had it at 7 for the best metal albums of 2019. Um, that's something I'm gonna have to go back to.
Yeah,
Um,
I've listened to it, and like I said, it wasn't for me.
it
It was.
has a Keith Buckley feature.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, but like I said, like it wasn't for me.
foreshadowing to
I didn't.
next episode.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. But like I said, they're a band that everybody in kind of metal circles talks about. So I wanted to give the EP a fair chance, and I'm glad I did because it was really good.
Yeah, that was something that was interesting that I looked back on after it released because everybody was talking about that Bad Flower album.
Hmm.
I was not a fan at all.
Really?
I did not think it was good.
Oh, I really enjoy it.
I could not. I just could not get down. I don't know why. It just didn't. I just never found anything. I don't know. I just couldn't
Huh.
get into it. Um, I didn't. I think I only got like 4 or 5 songs in, but like I just there was nothing, and I maybe I was not under the right influence. Maybe I was too
Mhm.
drunk that night or something when I was listening to it because I forget. I was with one of my friends, um, and I turned it on and I was like, I don't know. But I just never went back to it. I like listened to it. It was like I tried to go
You
through a
should
couple songs and I was just
you should revisit it
yeah,
because I
I
really
definitely want
enjoyed it.
to. Yeah, I definitely want to. But yeah, that just popped into my head because I feel like with like that punk sound, it's come up. I feel like that's been a very popular theme this year. With
Yeah,
a lot of bands
a
doing
lot of
this
hardcore
more.
releases this year.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about it next episode, but the new Every Time I Die release, Radical, incredible.
Yes.
And we'll get into more. But with that, you're talking about, I mean, they're labeled as punk. I don't know how punk that EP was. Um,
It was I mean, it was pretty true to the hardcore sound.
yeah. And then there was another one earlier. What was the other one that really it was one that I was really jamming to, but you weren't necessarily totally who was it? It was really early when we were doing the episodes. Like right when we first started. I can't forget what the release was.
I don't remember.
Loudwire to the rescue. But yeah, there's been a lot of more like harboring back to the old punk, like just the sound, and it's kind of cool. I mean, I know everything kind of comes
Yeah.
full circle, and everybody goes back and kind of looks back on the stuff that they used to listen to as a kid, and all this and that. But it's just been really interesting to
Yeah,
really sit there and listen to everything.
it's been like I said, there's been a lot of hardcore um, releases this year, and hardcore was never it's never been a genre that I've flocked to. Um, but I found myself listening to it more and more, kind of as we've been doing this podcast, and as I've been
Mhm.
exploring things that I wouldn't necessarily normally explore. Um, and I'm really
When did
glad,
we
like I said, I'm really glad that I gave Knocked Loose another chance because this one was fantastic.
when did we start this? Did we start this in August or was it
I believe it was either early August or late July.
late July? Really? It would have had no, it would have been early August because I just moved in um on August 1st, so it would have been right after that. So I'm trying to remember what the first week we did because it came. I remember it came that whatever this album is because I definitely people were talking about it. And were really hyped up for it. Um, there's Grayscale release, Ginger, um, Turnstile,
Turnstile,
Turnstile, Glow On.
Glow On,
Yes,
yes.
yes, I love that album.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling it.
Because of the whole just like the whole chaotic sound thing. If you can master it and have it sound complete,
Hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I felt like they did a good job at that. Granted, then again, my ears aren't working, so maybe that's a problem right now, and that's why I can't totally get the full grasp of everything. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like it's not like I can't hear, but like the bigger thing is my voice just like bouncing off the inside of this. Like it's just like I talk and it comes out this ear, but I try to talk through this ear and it goes and it bounces back. And it's so
Mm.
strange. Um, but anyways, what was the other EP that you were gonna mention?
Yeah, the other EP was from a group called The Agonist. They're a Canadian melodic death
Mhm.
metal band, and they released an EP called Days Before the World Wept. Um, and like I've mentioned on this podcast a few times, mellow death isn't something that I was familiar with intimately before starting this podcast, but it's something that I've really discovered since doing this podcast, and I love it. Absolutely love
Mhm.
the genre. Love pretty much everything that I've found in it, and this EP was no exception. They're a like I said, a Canadian melodic death metal band. Just recently, I don't know how recently, but they're on their second vocalist. Um, her name is Vicky. She took over for um, Elise White Gloves, who is in a band that we'll talk about next week on this podcast because they released a single that
Okay.
I want to talk about. Her new band, um, but the Agonist. Um, it was a great melodic death metal album EP. Um, really heavy, really into kind of playing with melodic leads, but still keeping the heavy chunkiness that you expect from death metal. Um, really solid effort in blending kind of two styles, and that's kind of what I've found that I really enjoy about melodic death metal is getting that heaviness, getting the chunky guitars, getting the harsh vocals, but also getting melodic leads and getting some clean singing.
Yes, yes, definitely. I'm trying to remember because I didn't listen to the EP.
Hmm.
That was not what because I'm trying to remember what I was listening to this week because um I can't remember what the singles were that came out um at
There
all. I
was
don't.
there was one single. There was one single from that week that came out that I also wanted to talk about. That I'm still listening to pretty much daily, and that is Whitechapel. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
Whitechapel.
Whitechapel released their latest single from their Kin album, which is coming out next week on the 29th. They released Orphan, and it is incredible. It blew me away. Whitechapel, death metal band
Yeah.
um, that I've kind of been familiar with their earlier work, so I thought that I knew what I was getting into with Orphan. Um, but I didn't listen to their before hearing Orphan. I hadn't heard their most recent release, their 2019 album, The Valley.
Okay.
So I didn't know. I wasn't aware that Whitechapel has kind of been expanding and maturing their sound. So when I got into Orphan and it was just clean vocals from Phil, I was I was shocked. Um, and then when I started actively listening to it and hearing how good his clean voice is, I was absolutely blown away. His clean vocals are incredible.
Yeah, because I think if I remember correctly, when you first heard that, I don't know if you were necessarily a fan of it because I think you were questioning it on the Twitter account
Hmm.
even. I think we tweeted about it. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
I
mean,
think
it took me a couple of listens to warm up to it because it was such a departure from
yes,
what I
yeah,
expected from Phil Bozeman and
yes,
Whitechapel because I
yes,
was only
yes,
familiar with the early stuff.
yes, and that's exactly exactly what I was going to go into. Is that there's so many artists that you listen to a piece of art and you're like the first time you're like, what?
Hmm.
What is this? And then after a couple of listens, you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I can get
yeah, and
down. I can get
that's
down.
exactly
Um,
what it was for me. Because on the first listen, I was just like, "This is not Whitechapel. This is not the Whitechapel I know." But on the second and third listen, I'm like, "Holy shit, Phil can sing
I think I think
amazingly."
I think one of my best examples in my personal discography of music, and it actually kind of blends the hip hop and then into the pop punk, punk, more punk in the punk vibe and alternative genre. I would say more grunge, really. But Kid Cudi, and when he formed Wizard, and had that out, that album is incredible. and is an entirely alternative, no, not hip hop in the slightest. And that's why he had an album, hmm, I want to say in 2015 or 16, called Speeding Bullet to Heaven. And it was incredibly experimental, and people were not a fan,
Hmm.
not a fan at all. And he got like bullied, bullied for it. It was rough, but because it was just too much for so many people, and I don't think enough people really sat down and like gave it that good like 3 4 listens to get to where you were at with Whitechapel, to be like, oh wait,
Yeah.
this is really good.
Yeah, and I imagine it was the same when Whitechapel released the Valley back in 2019. I don't know what the reception was for it, but I can imagine that, you know, people had an expectation from the Whitechapel name, and the Valley had a lot of that, had a lot of the old school Whitechapel sound, but then it has a song like Hickory Creek that is entirely clean vocals.
Yeah,
And you know, at that time, it was their first track that was entirely cleans, and you know that's going to alienate some people. But you know, as we've mentioned, you know, a few times on this podcast, you know, bands evolve and they change their sound, and it's not going to be for everyone. And for me personally, I think that this, and now that I've gone back and listened to the Valley a couple of times, I feel like it's a perfect example of a band who evolves their sound and does something different, but keeps true to what made them popular, what grew their fan base. Because there is a lot of heavy stuff on the Valley, and I assume there's going to be a bunch of heavy stuff on Kin. Um, but you know, Phil is clean singing in some of the stuff too, and you know they've got clean guitar sounds. You know, there are parts that have no distortion. There are, you know, acoustic guitars, um, which is, you know, unheard of for Whitechapel back in, you know, 2012, 2015. Um,
yeah,
so I really commend Phil and the guys in Whitechapel for being able to evolve and bring in new sounds and do it really really well, but also
yeah.
stay true to who they are as a band.
Exactly. We've talked about that time and time again with so many artists on this podcast, specifically on this podcast. Um, yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome when a band can do it and they can come in and they can be like, "Yo, we're doing this. We're making this change. Either come with us or be against us, and don't be fans anymore. Don't listen. But this is what we're doing because it's what we want to do." And there's plenty of examples of bands that just kind of flame out and
Hmm.
don't really make it, but you have to do it in like a respectful way. And it also depends on your size. If you're bringing me the horizon, you can look at people and be like, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Right.
We already made our money. We already have all of our other brands established. Like there's stuff like that you have to take into consideration when it comes to bands like Whitechapel, and it comes to bands like Parkway Drive, and it comes to bands like Bring Me the Horizon. They've been doing this for so long that they don't want to do the same thing again and again and
Right.
again and again. Because I imagine they feel like I do right now, having to go to work in an hour and 20 minutes, and I go in, I clock in, and I'm just like, it's the same thing every day.
Hmm.
Every day. Well, not every day, 5, but it feels like every day. It feels like every darn day because all my days off just kind of like blend in and they disappear. Um, but man, between like 40 to 45 hours a week, every day, just going in. I stood at a sandwich at the boards at the sandwich station the other day for 7.5 straight
Oh,
hours. 7.5 straight hours making sandwiches and
no
food.
thanks.
Hot turkey
No thanks.
bowls. You want some stuffing and mashed potatoes and hot turkey bowls? Here you go. I was going insane. Um, it's bad. It's really bad. And it makes it even worse because the people that I had were above me. So I couldn't even like stick my AirPod in and
Hmm.
just like jam out. I just had to be sitting there with like the top 40 pop hits of whatever was going on in the best. There are some good songs on that playlist. There are
Hmm.
some great throwbacks. There are some actually good pop songs that I jam to because Britney Spears is my girl. And but the problem is it's the same. It's the same every day. So these dudes get tired of coming in here and they're like, all right, let's lay down some licks on the bass.
Hmm.
Let's strum out some blast beats on the guitars. Hey, you slam them drums as hard as possible every day. I love it when they change it up. It's
Right.
awesome.
Well, and sometimes, you have a story you want to tell, and it calls for something different, like the
Exactly.
story that's going through the valley, and now with Kin, Phil's telling the story of kind of his life and the fucked up things that he had to deal with growing up, losing his parents, um, and kind of the feelings of you know, losing somebody that he looked up to in his dad, and losing his mom, and all the shit that she had to deal with after losing her husband, his father. And I'm not going to tell Phil's story. That's his to tell, and you can find it out there.
Go
But
listen.
I highly recommend finding some of Phil's interviews, because it's a heart wrenching story, and he tells it really well. And you know, luckily he's one of those people who can tell the story, and it's not rehashing trauma for him. It's just,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
this is the shit that I dealt with, and if me talking about it can help other people, great. That's what I want to do. um
I kind of have that same mindset with a lot of stuff that's happened in my past where I'm like, you know what, it happened and it really sucked, but I can either sit there and I can revel in it, or I can look at it and make me realize that it is made me who I am today. And if
yeah.
it didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person I am. And I just sat there and I was like, oh, I do the same thing every day, and it's so boring. But I like I do like who I am.
Yeah.
There's a lot of aspects about myself that I do, and there's obviously there's a lot of improvements I still need to make. But where I am in life and what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of happy with how things have turned out so far. Um, but like that's that's the it's an interesting mindset to sit there
Yeah.
and be able to do that because there are some people who just can't, who have to keep that in a box. And like there's been a lot of things actually over the past since I was transferred back to my old store in May. Because when I was an employee for Wawa for the first like year and a half, 2 years, I was almost entirely on overnight
Mhm.
or up at the front at the register if I worked on days. I was getting a little bit back there, but I didn't really hit like manager in the daytime until I came back to my old store after my stay at my second store. And there were a lot of idiosyncrasies about how I go about things and how I like work that people were now like realizing. And there's two things that my associates have been telling me. They're like, one, you have ADD or ADHD or whichever one. I don't even know what the difference is between the two, but whatever it is, like I have one of them, and I know this.
Mhm.
But it's not something that my parents ever thought was too like dire. And I have learned to deal with it to an extent.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say deal with it to an extent. There are definitely a lot of things that have been that it has exacerbated, um, such as writing a 10-page paper in one night when I was in college. Things
Mhm.
like that. That's what happens when you have that. Um,
Yeah.
but on top of that, I am also dyslexic, and I have confirmed this 100% from the entire time that I've been at work because I've never had a job where I've been required to read something back so repeatedly to people. And the amount of times I just mess things up over and
Mhm.
over and over again when I am staring straight at them. and I look back at and I look back at the person, and I just give them a straight nonsensical thing. And it's really bad when I'm on register because I'll be sitting there and I'll tell somebody their total and they get like what, like a couple of drinks and chips, and it's $14, and I'll be like, yeah, that's 41.62, and they're like, what? I'm like, I'm sorry, 14.62. My bad, my
I I
bad.
I do that a lot as well. It
All the
was
time.
it's been a
It,
it's been an issue. When I was at one of my previous jobs, I wrote websites for small and medium sized businesses across the country, and part of writing websites is putting on phone numbers, and businesses want the correct phone number on their website, and that's hard to do when you're flipping numbers.
and then even on top of that, with the way, because like I don't know if anybody that's watched or listened to the podcast is familiar with like food service, but like Subway sandwich food service slang and like the way that it is
Mhm.
displayed on the screen. But it's reliant on a lot of abbreviations, and abbreviations are very difficult at
Yeah.
times. And that's another thing. Like I'll be sitting there and I'm looking at something, and just between both not seeing everything and like just stuff flipping on me, and also my eyes being like just going everywhere a million miles a minute because I'm just so like on edge, and the high stress. Holy shit. Um, like it's just insane right now. I think I've been cussed out 4 days in a row.
Ooh.
Um, it's just ridiculous. But and it's because we don't have the staff, and then people have to wait a long time, and then they get upset. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. You saw everybody ordering. You saw everybody in line.
Right.
Go to a different Wawa. Why are you getting burgers and fries from a Wawa? Get it somewhere else, please. I'm going way too far. Um, it's just so difficult. It's just so difficult right now. But man, I just love coming home
Hmm.
and laying back and listening to some music on the way home in my car, getting the stress out, listening to music. Um, and it definitely helps specifically for myself with hard rock and metal because there's a lot of emotion
Right.
and a lot of feeling and a lot of just oomph behind it, and it gets me going. It keeps me motivated. Um,
Yeah. Well, and that was what I really that's what really hooked me about the Whitechapel song is that it is so emotional. It's such a departure from what I expected from Whitechapel, but it's so emotional that I just like I couldn't help but get sucked in.
yeah. Um, yeah, like we said, the Ice Nine Kill is fantastic. The Whitechapel is coming up this week on Friday.
Yep, I've
Um,
already got my pre-order sent in. It should be shipping within the next couple of days, so hopefully I'll have
okay.
it before it comes out.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I was gonna say, I really hope you do. Um, man, oh, you know what sucks right now? Have you heard about this vinyl crap?
A little bit, a very little bit.
So for some reason, it's like really, 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 really difficult to press vinyl right now. I
Hmm.
don't know what the deal is exactly. I haven't done much research, but so okay, I'm gonna put this out here, and I'm very lucky because I have a very big family, and we're very close, and we're all in each other's lives, and
Hmm.
I do apologize if like people hear this and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so spoiled and stuff." But it's just the way my family works. So everybody in my family, we all get together every year, and everybody gives like everybody's like, "Oh, get your Christmas list together. Like we need your Christmas list, whatever." I have a lot of like adults. My like sisters and I, there's a lot of family that we have in our family that don't have kids.
Hmm.
So like we're the kids. Um, there's so like so many. Um, but like now it's going to be a little different this year because like last year I had quite a few deaths in my family.
Hmm.
So this year it's a little different because like we're going out of town the week before Christmas to Las Vegas. Like the week before Christmas I'm going to be in Vegas. Which I think is very weird,
Nice.
but I'd rather be there for Thanksgiving. but whatever. I will be there for a Sunday, so that's what's important, and I will be live at the betting tables and the sports book.
Nice.
Um, that's what I'm excited for the most. But so no, I'm putting this Christmas list together, and I have a massive vinyl collection. Well, I won't say massive. I have a pretty big vinyl collection, and I'm looking for vinyls to ask for Christmas, and I want new vinyls. Umbra by Grayscale. That was one of the ones I
Mhm.
wanted. It doesn't come out until next year. The vinyl doesn't come out until after Christmas. There's so many vinyls right now from releases this year that have not been pressed yet.
Yeah.
They haven't even been printed. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a real issue, and I assume that bands are kind of pulling their hair out and like, we want
Well,
to be able to provide this for you, but we just can't.
I think it's come back too fast. I think
Yeah.
it's like boomed too quickly in popularity because like up until I would say maybe 2019, it was still pretty small. There it wasn't getting as but like when you get people like Taylor Swift pressing vinyl, um, and like these massive artists, like I've seen so much crazy stuff pressed
Yeah.
into vinyl, like the amount of sound like movie soundtracks, random ass movie soundtracks I've seen pressed into vinyl, like I don't know if there's demand, and I don't know why we're just doing it. There must be some sort of demand, but
Yeah.
hey, I'm trying to find stuff and I want to add to my collection. I did add apparently Walmart has this really cool electric blue um Ride the Lightning disc,
Oh.
and that's on
Oh.
my list. Yes. And I also put Master of Puppets. I want to get some Metallica vinyl in my collection. That
Yeah.
needs to happen.
I really
Um I
I need
I
to
also
get
put
myself a
Outcast.
record player. I need to get
Yeah.
myself a record player so I can start getting vinyls.
Yeah, it's very I got lucky because my dad's dad gave him his and then he gave it to me because he wasn't even using it. This was back in like 2013. 2013 is when I started collecting vinyl, which is insane to think about. And my parents and my entire family looked at me and they were like, you are insane. Like why do you want that? What's the deal? Why are you weird? Why do you and then all of a sudden look, it's 2021. There's so many things I have right now in my collection that are just like, oh my God. Original pressing of Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Oh, an original. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a original pressing of the White Album on a white disc. It's weather damaged, but it's still rare as shit.
Mhm.
There's so many things that I have just random ass shit. Um, One of my favorites that my college roommate got me for Christmas was a copy of Because the Internet by Childish Gambino, and it's a double disc, but in between the two discs is like between either a 60 or 70 page screenplay for the album.
Oh, wow.
And you can read it's the whole thing. I that one I've known about for a while and I had wanted, but he surprised me with it and I was like blown away. There's just so many like little things I have here and there. A lot of old school stuff. My first ever vinyl was Back in Black by AC/DC. And the shop I bought it from no longer exists.
Mhm.
um that's how eh, that's that's the struggle right now of what's going on with vinyl is that
Right.
it's very reliant on online sales, and because the shops don't survive,
Yeah.
that part is dead and I hate it. I actually real bold take here, real bold take here, because it's something I'm terrified about, and it's not really a political thing, it's more of just like an economic thing. Once OSHA brings down this law or this mandate that companies are going to have to force their employees to be vaccinated or get negative tests every week,
Mhm.
I think there will be people who will get tested every week. I'm just gonna get my vaccine. I'm
Yeah.
just waiting. I actually, ironically, if I had been exposed this past week because I had a possible exposure, but because I had COVID in the past 90 days, I'm exempt. I was gonna get my vaccine in the time off, but I'm just scheduling it now for a different time when I have time because I get off of work at 10 p.m. However, when this happens, because it's not a matter of if, it's when, because
Yeah.
there is precedent, it's going to happen. Um, when it happens, it's going to be one of the biggest booms for small business USA because they don't have to force people to be vaccinated or get negative tests
Hmm.
because they will be underneath that 100 employee bubble, which
Right.
which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all, but it's going to be a boom for small business America, and I think it has a chance to kind of flip around this whole like online like craze because if people don't want to get vaccinated, like obviously there will be plenty of people who will be vaccinated and be like, oh, I would work for Amazon because like shoot, if they want to pay me $19 an hour, I'll go work for Amazon. I'm not opposed to that. It can't be any worse. What I'm doing right now can't be any worse than what I'm doing right now. um, but like I know so many people that I work with right now who have told me straight up because I am a supervisor. I'm somebody who is in a management position. They told me straight up, I'm gone. If
Hmm.
I have to be vaccinated, I'm gone. I'm not getting tested every week. And I'm just like, okay. So I've just been waiting. I've just been waiting
Yeah.
for this to happen. Um, but it's gonna be insane. It's gonna be crazy. I don't know what to make of the next couple of months. It's gonna be very interesting here very soon.
It would be interesting if it does indeed have a kind of
But
effect on small businesses and bringing back some of the things that have died, like record shops.
yeah, and see, but then I also sit here and wonder because this has also been a hot topic of conversation. How is a government that's not going to be active going to enforce a vaccine mandate?
We'll have to see.
So they might want to figure that one out first before
Yeah.
they get some big balls over here. But yeah, we're getting way too political in a metal. Well that see that doesn't really work because metal is political. Medical is
Yeah.
political. Medical. Um yeah, no. Um Yes, we have some amazing things to discuss about in the episode that we have coming up later this week. Because, again, we do apologize for the absence. Actually, with the last episode we had, I had discussed that I was possibly going to a concert. I didn't even get to go to that concert. I had the day off. I went in at 3:40 a.m. in the morning and work the following morning. Thank God I didn't go to that
Yeah.
concert because I
Oh,
would have
that
been
would have been rough.
dead. I would have been dead. I probably wouldn't have gone in the morning, but it would have been worse for me in the long run.
Yeah.
Um, it's been insane. It's been an insane 2 weeks, but we want to. I've got some crazy, crazy stuff coming up in the next weekend, so we're gonna get another episode out. This is not another long break at all. This is just a catch up because I'm going to something that is stable, and I will still be able to have a place to live while I search for a new place to live because I am moving out of this humble abode this weekend. Um, but yeah, we've got some new Every Time I Die. We've got some new
Yes.
Don Bronco. We've got some we've got a hell of a lot of stuff and then a hell of a lot of more coming up this Friday as well. Um
Yes. The 29th is going to be a huge day.
Black Veil Brides has something coming out. I didn't know that they were
Yep.
I haven't been in tune with them for quite some time. Um but
Yeah,
there's
there's a lot coming
so
out on the 29th that is
end of
intriguing to me.
end of October, right before
Yep.
Halloween. It's the Halloween weekend, and this is again. I don't want to like speak for the genre and the vibes of the genre, but metal October is metal month, baby.
Yeah.
Metal and
It's
rock month.
spooky season.
Spooky season is. I'm not wearing my ghost hat. I'm wearing my Edmonton Oilers hat because they're 4-0, maybe 5-0. No, I think they're just 4-0. I don't. They're either 4 or 5-0. They've won the first 4 of the 5 games of the season. It's looking good. Hockey's back. The Dolphins suck. I don't want to watch
God.
them anymore.
Same.
Um, even though I'm going, well, see,
Yeah, I'm going to, but I don't want to.
well, at least you have Iowa. At least you have Iowa. I have to sit here and watch Virginia Tech play football every
Yeah,
week.
but I'm an Iowa State fan.
Well, at least you have Iowa State. Do you want to fire your head coach?
No, no, I want to
Yeah,
keep him around as long as possible.
exactly. Exactly. I I didn't get so I worked Saturday and Sunday. Um, Saturday I worked 1 to 9. Actually, probably turned out to be 1 to 10:30. And then or yesterday I worked 12 to about 8:39. Um, and so that I missed pretty much all the football. And while you guys
Well, you
kept
didn't
me
miss much.
well, while you guys kept me up to date in the Dolphins world, I had to rely on going back through my Twitter feed on Saturday to decipher what had happened for the Virginia Tech game. And oh my gosh. It like if you like honestly, and I'm gonna put this up there just like right in the face of everything. We say that Dolphins Twitter is bad. Virginia Tech Twitter is a lawless land. It is insanity. And Virginia Tech fandom is insanity. They were lining up for a field goal on Saturday and they were chanting Fire Fuente. Virginia Tech was kicking a field goal and its own home fans were chanting to fire the head coach. Not, hey, make the field goal. No, fire the head coach. We don't care about this field
Jeez,
goal. Fire him. Get him out of here.
that's
That's how
rough.
bad it is. It's insane. And yeah, we lost to Syracuse. That's pretty bad. They hadn't won a game in the ACC yet. Somebody has pointed out that all the ACC teams we've lost, or yeah, all the ACC teams we've lost to so far were formerly in the Big East,
Hmm.
and we still have a couple left to go. But guess who wasn't in the Big East? Virginia. So hopefully we win that game. That it the man's got to get fired. But if if he loses to Virginia to end this season,
Yeah,
good
that
God.
can't happen.
Good God. At least you beat Richmond. At least you beat Middle Tennessee. If you lose to Virginia, you're gonna lose anybody who has any credible amount of respect for him. It's gone. Like he's literally going to be like excommunicated. I said this before Syracuse because they were wearing those beautiful throwback maroons. Sports have been awful.
Hmm.
Hockey is back. The Lakers suck. That's what they get for poaching Anthony Davis from my Pelicans. I love new sports coming in. And the Braves made it to the World Series, and I really hope they win because that's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I really, 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 really am hoping and praying for that. But this has been Blast Beats, hosted by yours truly, Zachary Nur, and my host and co-host, brethren, Chris Spooner. You can follow me at Zachner right there down at the bottom. And Chris, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me as always at Spoonful of Sport, or follow Zach and I tweeting from the Blast Beats Twitter account at ATB_BlastBeats.
Yes, I have been making a. Chris has been solid on the account for the entire time that's been around, but I have been trying to make a better effort here the past couple days to get some tweets out. They have been a bit sparing in the past. And then as well, we both have other work out there. We're both active writers. I'm doing a little bit of writing for ATB underneath the Dolphins, and possibly doing a little bit of basketball work here in the future. You can also find me over at Pro Football Network doing the how to watch when the games are on TV, give you a little bit of preview and not necessarily analysis, but let you know what's going on before all the games. Let them know where they can find your other work, Spoon.
Yeah, I'm occasionally Dolphins writer for ATB, ATB Dolphins, and I've been doing a weekly Rising Prospects NFL draft piece for NFL Draft Bible with Sports Illustrated. So
Nice. All right. So we will see. As I said, we're going to do another episode on, did we say Thursday or Friday?
I don't think we settled on a exact date, but both of those work for me.
Either Thursday or Friday. We are going to get you guys caught up with everything we've held back. I've wanted to dive so deep into this past week's releases, but I've held back because it's going to be a jam-packed episode. We're going to talk a lot
Yes.
about it.
There's
Um,
so much that came out last week
yeah,
that was so good.
so many top tier worthy contenders for albums that like it's incredible. But we will catch you guys on the flip side. See y'all soon. Stay classy, stay amazing. Peace out. Love y'all. And we'll see you guys on Friday or Thursday.